Hi guys, this is Mr. Tan, and today we're looking at business strategy. And we're going to look at understanding the organizational purpose of businesses and various strategies that they could adopt moving forward. So the first thing is, what do we mean by survival? Well, the definition of survival is the capability of businesses, organization, system, and organisms to withstand competition, disaster, or hostile environment without impairments of its normal operations or its activities. A merger. What do we mean by mergers? A definition of a merger is the coming together, amalgamation of two businesses entities into one legal entity. So if we take, for example, Sony Ericsson and Glaxo SmithKline. Acquisition. So what do we mean by acquisition? Definition of acquisition is taking possession of a company, business, or organization by purchasing 51% or more of its voting shares. So therefore having full control over how the business is run, putting in their own people, and then determining the allocation and uses of resources within the organization moving forward by the people who have 51% of those voting shares. So let's look at McKinsey 7S in terms of a strategy that you would need to think about when thinking about your overall strategy of your company. And you would need to think about, what is your strategy? What is the vision, mission, aims, and objectives? What is going to be the, organizational structure? And are you thinking about, a domestic structure? Are you thinking about a multi-domestic structure or a global organizational structure in today's world? What about systems, processes in place? These are the hard factors of McKinsey 7S. And then you have the soft factors in terms of, what skills are required, what staff, and what style of leadership will you incorporate within your organization, and what are going to be the shared values, the organizational culture of the company. So, hard factors, these are more formal, tangible, and measurable, whereas the soft factors are more informal and a little bit more difficult to measure. The hard factors are the structure. What structure do we need to execute the strategy? A strategy, what should we do to solve the specific business problem? And systems, what business systems do we need to use or invent to execute the strategy? And then you have the soft elements, the skills. What skills do we need to help us, or what skills do we need to develop? The staff, how do we help managers in their growth, and the style, what type of leadership and culture qualities will help us achieve our overall strategic goals? And then the shared values are, which, of our principles help us. Why do we do what we do in the way that we do it? Then we have our strategic controls and financial controls, in a balanced scorecard framework. Again, kind of like reviewing the current situation, the financial, the cash flow, return on equity, return on assets. So, can you actually pay off your debts within one financial year? Because if you can't and you don't have enough cash flow, then you're going to be in problems. Customer, assessment of the ability to anticipate customers' needs, the effectiveness of customer services practices, the percentage of repeat business, and the quality communication with customers, the internal business process, the asset utilization improvements, improvements in employee morale, which leads to motivation, productivity, efficiencies, and better profits. Changes in changeover rates, learning and growth, improvements in innovation ability, number of new products compared to competitors, and increase in employee skills. So again, we would need to look at this in terms of the overall strategy of your company, in terms of what you were looking for, in terms of the financial, the customer, the internal business processes, and learning and growth. What is it that you want to do? Where do you need to get to in terms of meeting your overall vision your mission, your overall strategy. What do you need to do into these 4 different areas? So questions to consider include how easy and possible is it to gain competitors' information? Can we gain competitors' information? You know, are there any wide discrepancies? Can the information be gained from non-competitive companies? And are they willing to share? And what is your time scale? Because you need to know and gain information about your competitors, what they're doing, what their financial strength is, and where they're going. And to know what they're doing so you can compete against them, to understand what their positioning strategy is, to know where they're strong and where they're weak, what you might need to do to incorporate within your organizational structure to be as competitive as they are. So you will need to take into consideration various influences, such as the demographic influences. Demographic influences, is the study of the population and population trends. One of the most important influences on the organization is the change in population, numbers and composition. The following demographic factors are important. The rate of growth in or decline in national and regional populations, changes in age distribution of population, the concentration of population in certain geographical areas. I mean, this kind of leads back to Pestel and SWOT and your situational analysis, and leads back to determining what is the current situation. So you have your vision, mission, aims and objectives, and then a situational analysis, which then leads onto your marketing strategy. Other demographic factors includes the services and products an organization customers will want, and the size of demand for certain products, the location of demand, recruitment. A falling birth rate will mean that 16 to 20 years later there will be a decline in the number of young people entering the workforce. The wealth of the workforce, who sustain and support the aging population. So again, when we think about the demographic profiles, we are linking it back to Pestel and a situation analysis. But it is something that, if you think about strategy, where the company is going, it's something that does need to be taken into consideration. And when we think about strategy, what type of strategy are we going for? Are we going for kind of like the miles and snow, different categories of businesses, like companies which are defensive or proactive or reactive? So because ultimately companies want to grow. So if we look at the definition of growth, this means by which an organization plans to achieve its objective to grow in volume and turnover. 4 broad growth strategies are available, which include market penetration, product development, market development, and diversification. So we've looked at these again in terms of Porter's generic strategies, but we will look at these again. Organic growth. Organic growth, is growth that comes from a company's existing businesses, as opposed to growth that comes from buying new businesses. Organic growth is probably ideal for market penetration and suitable for product or market development, but it might be a problem with extensive projects. And organic growth is achieved through the development of internal resources. Reasons for pursuing organic growth include learning, innovation. No suitable target for acquisition, can be planned more meticulously, more convenient, maintains management style and corporate culture, economies of scale, increasing your sales, so you get you can buy more at a cheaper cost, thus your cost of goods sold is going to be cheaper, thus increasing your gross profit. Hidden or unseen losses are less likely. The problems with organic growth includes time. Sometimes it takes too long to climb the learning curve, and if your competitors are climbing faster than you are, there could be a long-term problem. Barriers to entry, distribution, networks are harder to overcome. The firm will have to acquire the resources independently. And organic growth may take too slow for dynamics of the marketplace. You just may not be able to compete if you're moving too slow in relation to your competitors. Market entry strategies, methods of growth, building up new business, acquiring already existing businesses from its current owners, mergers of 2 or more separate businesses, and spreading the cost and risk with joint ventures or cooperatives. So if we looked at market entry strategies before in the previous slides, we've looked at things like licensing agreements, franchises, joint ventures, management contracts, and wholly owned subsidiaries as well. So licensing, a licensing agreement is a commercial contract whereby the licensor gives something of value to the licensee in exchange for certain performances and payment. The licensor may provide rights to produce a patented product or to use a patented process or trademark. Example is a new invention. The license receives royalties, and another example is writing a song. So a compact disc technology was developed by Sony and Philips, who earned royalties from other manufacturers licensed to use it. A franchise. Franchise is a method of expanding the business on less capital than would otherwise be possible. For suitable businesses, it is an alternative strategy for raising extra capital for growth. Examples include, budget rent-a-car, Holiday Inn, KFC, Sketchly Cleaners, Body Shop, McDonald's, Subway, and Tony and Guy. And, now a McDonald's franchise costs to start up £1 million. But again, they provide you with their, the business, the logos, the advertising, the marketing, the equipment, all the processes and practices, and how they conduct all their operations internally within their business, and they train you on this. And then, most people who have a McDonald's franchise is most likely going to be a multi-millionaire. So the franchisor and franchisee each provide different inputs to the business. The franchisor, name and the goodwill associated with it, systems in the business, like we said, support the services such as advertising, training, and help with the site decoration. And the franchisee, he provides the capital, personal involvement and local market knowledge, payment to the franchisor for rights and support services, and responsible for the day-to-day running and ultimately the profitability of the franchise. The disadvantages of the franchises, the search for competent candidates is both costly and time-consuming, where the franchisor requires many outlets. And again, the control over the franchise and control over the brand and quality and reputation. Again, this can be a disadvantage if it's been run poorly and goes against the image that you're trying to portray. So, as an evaluation here, what went well. So, now, there is also other methods in terms of strategies a company could adopt for, which includes horizontal integration. So horizontal integration takes place where one business integrates with another business at the same stage in the chain of production. So, Walker's Crisps takes over Golden Wonder, and we've seen it with Comet selling PCs and PC World. Examples include also EasyJet and Co, Ryanair and Bars, the motor industry, General Motors acquisition or parts of Daewoo, Morrison's takes over Safeway, The Body Shop, and L'Oreal. And then we've got vertical integration as well. So vertical integration is a situation where one integrated business company owns all the different aspects of making, selling, and delivering a product or service. In the electricity industry, it refers to the historically common arrangement whereby a utility would own its own generating plants, transmission systems, and distribution lines to provide all aspects of the electric service. Even if you think about, McDonald's having vertically integrated backwards, they have their own farms, huge farms, where they have their own cows and their own beef and their food stock, which they supply to all their chains that they own and also to the franchisees. Likewise, if we look at Zara, started as one shop in Spain. Now they have over 2,000 stores worldwide. They had turnover over £20 billion a year, and they have vertically integrated backwards. So they have their own manufacturing. 85% of their clothes are made and manufactured by their own manufacturing sites. And they have their own designers as well. They have designers around the world, so they can reduce the time it takes to get from the need of the customer to design to into the shop from 6 months to 6 weeks. So vertically integration. So many companies are doing this. Vertical backwards, and you can also go vertical forwards as well. So if you were Zara, you vertically integrated backwards, but likewise if you were a manufacturer, you could vertically integrate forwards and then buy the wholesalers and the retailers, for example. So vertical forwards, a business takes over or merges with a business at the next stage of production, like a table maker joins with a shop. Vertical backwards, a business takes over or merges with a business at the previous stage of production. So like with Zara going back and buying out and starting up their own manufacturing sites. A table joiner joins with a tree. So let's look at the vertical integration. Examples are, a timber shipping company and a furniture factory and a furniture shop, or a tour operator, and then you have chartered airlines and travel agents, all under one company. And then, like for pubs, if you had a brewery who makes the beer, and then you have pubs, and then you have brands. And if you think about the music industry, you've got the music industry brands, and then you have the record labels, and then the record stations. So the disadvantages of vertical integration, these include, over concentration, more sensitive to instability and increases in the firm's dependencies on a particular aspect of demand. The firm fails to benefit from any economies of scale or technical advances. So class activity here. Conglomerate. This is the development beyond the present industry into products and markets which at face value may bear no close relation to the present product or market. A corporation has diversified its operations, usually by acquiring enterprises in widely varied industries. So AOL to Time Warner. Again, conglomerate integration takes place when one business integrates with another business in a completely different market. So if you look and took Walker's Crisps, and then Walker's, for example, took over Next. So it's a completely different marketplace. The advantages of this, you're spreading the risk, escape from the present business, better access to capital markets, no other way to grow, so this is a good opportunity, and use the company's image and reputation in another marketplace. The disadvantages of this includes, the lack of common identity and purpose. Failure in one of the businesses may drag the other one down, and you may not have the management expertise, so there may be a lack of management expertise. So we can see some examples here. Conglomerates, P&G, Proctor and Gamble. This portfolio includes leadership brands that are some of the UK's and Ireland's most well-known household names. So you can see the different types of markets that Procter & Gamble own with these different product brands. Again, is a more detailed list of the brands that Procter & Gamble own, which is a wide range of different brands. So thank you today from Mr. Tan at looking at business strategy and reviewing all the different options that are available to organizations and firms. But we will be going into more detail in these in later classes. So thank you today.